Paris in the icy winter of 1905, many of the women who hand-painted the world-famous Limoges vases and figurines went on strike in France, not because they were poorly paid or toiled long hours, but because they were prey to the factory overseers' sexual urges. Their protest was against the custom, inherited from the Middle Ages, in which bosses, or feudal lords, compelled sexual services from the young women who worked for them. A different kind of protest against sexual abuse is underway in France and America in the wake of the accusations of abuse by the Hollywood producer Harvey Weinstein. These new protesters are armed with hashtags like #MeToo and #BalanceTonPork, or Out Your Pig. But not everyone is so sure that the current wave of outrage on social media will be enough to change behavior and attitudes that have resisted generations of efforts in France. It is not at all the same thing to tweet in 140 characters and to bring a complaint in court, said Marilyn Baldac, a legal professional who specializes in helping French women bring claims of sexual harassment. Other recent watersheds in France brought little relief for women in their wake. The sexual assault trial that derailed the presidential hopes of Dominique Strauss-Kahn, the former managing director of the International Monetary Fund, crossed a threshold in France for making the private lives of public figures fair game for the news media. But the sheer number of women in France currently going public with the details of their unwanted sexual encounters makes clear that the private behavior of powerful men or, for that matter, less powerful men did not necessarily change. Similarly, after a flurry of sexual harassment allegations roiled France's National Assembly last year, some of the laws approved by the same body may have raised the hurdles for women to prosecute harassers. Lawyers and experts have criticized recent changes in the labor law, ordered by President Emmanuel Macron, for backsliding and say that, at every level, the administration's response has been either non-existent or inadequate. Some women in France feel so aggrieved that they started a petition addressed to Mr. Macron, urging him to treat sexual harassment as a national emergency. It gained 100,000 signatures in its first 3 days online. "What's happening is a revolt," said Geneviève Fraisse, a French philosopher, writer on feminist thought and director of research at the government's prestigious National Center for Scientific Research. "It's the same thing that happened for abortion in the 1970s and for equal pay in the 1990s, she added. "It's a catalyst, it's not something that can be ignored, it's an historic moment. But there remain big obstacles, cultural and legal, that discourage women from complaining about harassment in the workplace. A culture of silence has long persisted around such behavior, and is only now being broken. France's reluctance to move more aggressively against sexual harassment reflects deeply rooted ideas about sexual relations and the relative power between men and women," said Joan Scott, a professor emeritus of intellectual and cultural history at the Institute for Advanced Study in Princeton, NJ, who has studied French social and sexual mores. "There is a long-standing commitment to the notion that the French do gender relations differently, especially from prudish Americans, and that has to do with the French understanding of seduction," she said.